Hello, welcome everybody. Today's Legal Academy, and thank you all for joining. Today's Legal Academy workshop will be on U visas, and we'll have such questions as what it is, the requirements, the process from beginning to end, and what to expect, and what steps to take for community members interested in seeing their eligibility. And I'll say it in Spanish as well. Entonces, esta reunión es sobre cómo poder obtener una visa U, qué es una visa U y cuáles son los requerimientos. Esta vez va a ser en inglés, la reunión de hoy, pero para el día de consultas va a haber interpretación disponible. También en nuestro canal de YouTube tenemos grabado una sesión como estas con una abogada diferente en español. Si gustarían pueden dejar su número y les puedo mandar en el chat y les puedo mandar el enlace para que vean ese video. Es el mismo tema, las mismas preguntas y las mismas respuestas, solamente en español. And like I was saying, we do have a Spanish version of this pre-recorded on our YouTube with a different attorney, if anybody else is interested in the Spanish version. And free consultations will be on the 17th of October. Please schedule them soon as you can, as they will run out quickly. And with that being said, we can go ahead and jump into it. So my name is Rodolfo Martinez Barron, and I'm the director of the Advocacy and Civic Engagement Department. And I can go ahead and pass it on to our guest speaker to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. My name is Shannon Russell, and I am an attorney here in Washington, North Carolina. I'm with the Interbanks Legal Services firm, and our firm was fortunate enough to receive an IOLTA grant award for an immigration program. Our firm is a nonprofit firm, so we serve individuals on a sliding scale basis. And we discovered in the past 5 years of operation that immigration is a very expensive practice, and there is a need here in Eastern North Carolina for more immigration attorneys. And so we were able to provide a successful application for an immigration program. And we have just started that this year. So we're very excited to be here tonight to talk about the U visa process. And if it's all right, I'll go ahead and just jump right in.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Okay, great. So the U visa is typically called a crime visa. And what we mean by that is this is a visa program for individuals that while in the United States were victims of crime. And right now, just to kind of give you an idea of the demand for U visas, there is a statutory limit of 10,000 of these visas are allowed to be granted a year. And in the second quarter of 2022, which was the most recent stats I could find, there were 291,169 pending applications for a U visa. So it's definitely risen in popularity in the last few years, exponentially so in probably the last 5 years. And so I think it's important to keep in mind that although this is a very necessary visa mechanism, there is a wait for it in excess of 5 years. I was on a group with other immigration attorneys, and today I saw a post that they were processing from 2016. And so, but let's talk about who would qualify for a U visa. So, those individuals, a petitioner that has suffered a substantial physical or mental abuse, result of having been a victim of a qualifying criminal activity, and they possess credible and reliable information establishing that they have knowledge of the details concerning the criminal activity, and that they have been helpful or are likely to be helpful to a certifying agency in the investigation and prosecution of criminal activity. And criminal conduct occurred in the U.S. or on Indian reservation or land, or a U.S. military installation. And so, just to kind of break that down into normal words, um, that is someone that has been a victim of a crime that occurred here in the US, and they've been cooperating with law enforcement. And unfortunately, as a result of that crime, they have suffered substantial physical or mental abuse or so injuries, right? One important note is that if a non-citizen, so the victim was under the age of 16 at the time of the crime, or they're incompetent or incapacitated, so they don't have the necessary mental state, then a parent or guardian or a friend can satisfy that requirement in terms of cooperating with law enforcement. Because children, under the age of 16, can't really do anything without the authority of their parents, anyways. And if someone has a disability or they're incapacitated, so they lack capacity, is what we call it, or they're incompetent, then a guardian could also assist with the investigation. So, one of the main elements of U visa qualifications is the qualifying criminal activity. And so that typically includes one or more of the following or any similar activities which violate federal, state, or local criminal laws. And so I'm going to read through um, examples of those qualifying activities. So if you've been a victim of abduction, blackmail, domestic violence, extortion, false imprisonment, felonious assault, female genitalia mutilation, forced labor, fraud in foreign labor, fraud in foreign labor contracting, being held hostage, incest, involuntary servitude, kidnapping, manslaughter, murder, obstruction of justice, perjury, prosecution, rape, sexual assault, abuse, sexual abuse of contact, sexual exploitation, slave trade, stalking, torture, trafficking, unlawful criminal restraint, witness tampering, and any type of those crimes which is an attempt, a conspiracy, or a solicitation for any of these crimes. So it's a pretty long list. And, they made the reference to federal, state, or local laws. And that's because every state, well, lots of states have different standards of what a murder is or what a sexual assault is. They call it different words because their state laws are, from individual legislatures. So there can be nuances state to state. And so in the application, you basically have to make your argument and explain why you believe your crime fits one of those categories. And then in terms of a victim of a qualifying criminal activity, we're talking about a person who has suffered a direct and proximate harm as a result of the commission of the criminal acts stated in the statute. So that list that I read out to you, those are the criminal acts. And so the victim, also known as the petitioner, does not have to be physically present. So the direct victim is the person that actually witnesses the crime, or they are the victim themselves. And the direct victim is the person that the crime occurs to. So if you were a victim of sexual assault, you would be the direct victim. An indirect victim could be a family member. So that would be an example if an individual is deceased. So say a person was murdered in front of their mother, which is one of the case law that USCIS considers, even if that person did not see the actual murder, but they were in a close enough proximity to the event to know that it was happening, then that person would have standing to apply for a U visa. And again, one of the main elements for this is that you have to cooperate with law enforcement. So you need to, you know, help with their investigation, provide statements, be available to witness, or to, excuse me, to testify as a witness. And it doesn't have to be that you actually testify. Like if they plea out criminally and you were just willing to be a victim witness, that's okay too. You don't have to actually testify. You just have to be willing to do and assist. Um, and so I know we've had a lot of comments pop. Is there anything, Rodolfo, I need to know about? I'm seeing them come through, but
Uh, no, none at the moment. Just those interested in the Spanish version that's on our YouTube.
yeah, that's my biggest weakness right now, right? Is that I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately. And so
There, we do have
yes,
one
the Spanish,
question at the right now.
yeah, sure.
So someone commented, is it true that the County of Wake does not sign the certification? So does the county sheriff of Wake not sign these type of applications to start the process of U visa? If they
You know,
don't,
I have not
mm,
I haven't heard that you know, personally. I think that's something that we should look into. There, the form that the law enforcement agency has to provide as part of the application is that I-918B form. And there are statutory requirements for the person within that law enforcement agency that has the authority to issue that certification. So I would imagine if a law enforcement agency is willfully refusing to certify 918B forms, that would be a concern for the Department of Justice, just because, you know, federal law requires them to have someone to certify that. And now, whether a sheriff is just, because of some political reason, refusing to do that, I don't know what the enforceability is under the Department of Justice, but I've not heard that personally. I'll be happy to look into that and have an answer for the consults in 2 weeks, but that would be very concerning, right? Because the reality is the implication of that would be no victims of crime in Wake County would be able to apply successfully for a U visa, right? Because you have to have that 918B form certified by a law enforcement agency. Now, I will say, just from not to go too deep down a jurisdictional element, but the sheriff has authority in unincorporated portions of a county, right? But so the sheriff of Pitt County has authority, they have jurisdiction throughout the county, but the city of Greenville would be likely where you would get your certification if you were a victim of a crime in the city of Greenville limits, right? So it wouldn't matter if the sheriff wanted to certify it or not. And so it could very well be that maybe there's not a lot of unincorporated areas of Wake County. So, but again, I'll research it and I'll let you know. I'd not heard that. Um, I I personally wouldn't understand why someone would do that, but I mean, other than a complete political agenda, which you know.
a little,
So, but good question. We'll follow up with that. Yes.
a little more into her question. She stated that, is it true that if they don't catch the perpetrator who committed the crime, that I can't apply for the U visa? As for example,
Well,
I get robbed, but like they don't catch the person that does it. but the person still got robbed, or the crime was
I,
still committed.
I've not, yeah, I've not come across that. In fact, the guidance that I am aware of, that you you just have to be willing to be helpful. So if a case is closed, right, then your willingness is enough. And so I don't know if the case would necessarily be closed because they couldn't find it. Usually they would keep cases open, right, like a cold case. But your willingness is because there's nothing in the statute that refers to conviction, right? I think the difficulty with something like a robbery is you're going to have to substantiate the substantial physical and mental impact of that crime. And so it might be harder to do that with that particular crime. But but
Mhm.
yeah, no, I've not come across that just because they can't catch the person. If you're providing witness account, you're cooperating with the investigation, you're not trying to obstruct, and basically like don't want to be a snitch and don't say something. This is where you do have to provide any and all leads and assist with the investigation. But I will get confirmation for that. But I don't believe so. I think that's incorrect.
Oh, okay, thank you. We do
Was
have
there any follow up?
no,
Yeah.
not, but we do have another question. This one is
Yeah, sure.
specific towards the county that you're in. So Beaufort County. So more specifically in
Yeah.
Washington. Are you aware of how flexible the police department, sheriff's department is to authorize the certification to a victim? Are they more willing or pro, since it appears to be like on a by county basis on how flexible some of the sheriffs are?
Um, you know, I don't I can't speak personally to the sheriff here, or the police department. I think as an officer of the court, what I would expect from any law enforcement agency is that they fulfill their federal statutory duty, which is if there is a victim of a crime and they are requested to submit a I-918B form, that they would comply with that. Um, just because otherwise I don't know if they're fulfilling their duty, their sworn duty, as, to uphold the Constitution. All law enforcement officers take an oath, including the sheriff, and police chiefs and all of that. I do know here in the city of Washington, there is a specific staff member that is responsible for Latino relations and language services. And so I think sometimes, unfortunately, there are a lot of administrative barriers to individuals that don't speak English as a first language, navigating things like how to apply and request, documents and reports and the things that you would need and want as part of an assessment. Like here at, Inner Banks, when we do a consultation for a U visa, we really want to try to have as much of your documentations as possible. So like if you had any kind of a police incident report, any court filings, so the CR numbers or criminal file numbers for any charges that were filed against the perpetrator of this violent crime, that we would be able to look at that, and because that would have a record of where it is in the adjudication and stuff like that. And we have seen that it's very difficult for people that don't speak English as a first language to navigate that. So I do know here in the city of Washington, we do have a staff member on the Washington Police Department that assists in that. And it's a real resource. So, but I can't speak specifically to whether or not they do their job. We've not received any pushback from them or any complaints, from clients coming in specific to this county. But I think, if you all did, I would love to hear about that because I think that that's a broader conversation then that would need to happen.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Another question would be, is it true that the filing fee for the U visa is for like at no charge?
Yes, yes, it is.
And
So that's a benefit, right?
another question would be, is it true that you have to pay for a pardon, the $930 fee, when you file for your U visa?
I believe so. Yes. If you're here without authorization, yes.
Okay. And have you ever worked with doing the fee waiver?
We are still very new with the U visa, so we've not filed a fee waiver yet. Um, we're ready. We're ready to file a fee waiver. So we're just, being that we're still very new, and unfortunately, what we've also learned with working with victims of crime, that may be in our country without immigration authorization, they're very reluctant to trust people, right? And it can be very scary for them to come into a stranger's office and explain something, like being a victim of a crime, which is, I personally have been a victim of a crime that's a very, it wasn't even that severe. And it is very emotional to talk about and to relive. And so there's some reluctance to, go to the police and try to get police reports and to come to a consultation. So, we have we're trying to build this and educate our community that this is a service that is, free for us to do as the legal work to prepare it and to do the other fee waivers for your work authorization. But yeah, we're willing to do it. We just haven't done one yet.
And then
Oh,
another
I think you're still
question,
muted.
oh, sorry. Another
Uh-huh.
question that would
That's
be,
right.
how have you done one in Greenville before? And if so, was that difficult to do?
So I can't really get too much into pending cases, and I don't want to talk about ones that we have open. We have open U visa cases. We have assisted and have gotten a good referral system in with a local agency called Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Raleigh. And so we're working with them on some cases, and um, it's I think what we're finding is some law enforcement officers are a lot more willing to speak to an attorney. An attorney, we're a lot more knowledgeable as to how to maneuver the court system. And so the difficulty that I think maybe other people experience in municipalities or counties working with the certification is it's easier when you have an attorney. And an attorney sends an email and makes a phone call, and a lot of times things can get moving a little bit faster. Does that help?
Yeah, yes. Have you seen anyone get the work permit or like the lawful status while they await their U visa?
So that is a possibility. Yes. So when I don't know what we mean exactly by have I seen it personally happen. Again, we only started filing these applications this summer. So again, this is a very long process. Um, but let's just say that hypothetically you had all the paperwork you needed, you got your application in, you know submitted it to USCIS. They're going to do what's an initial review. And then when they make a bona fide determination, which basically says that, you meet all the filing requirements, you've completed a background check. The background check says that you're not a risk to national security or public safety. And likely your case meets favorable exercise of discretion, then you're able to apply for employment authorization documentation. And so I think USCIS will automatically do that at about 2 years, but you can apply earlier than that. And so, again, another reason why you would likely want to hire an attorney to do this for you, because then you would have deferred action valid for 4 years, and you would have employment authorization. And so, once you get that bona fide determination, that's kind of the key. Now, if you don't get bona fide determination, it's not that your application is necessarily going to be denied either. You just go to a general wait list. And then again, the wait list for adjudication for petitions is really based off of the number of pending applications. So that's where you get into that 5-10 year um, basis.
Mm, so you're only ever able to really request the work permit after you have a bona fide case.
Yes,
Oh, okay, okay.
but you can apply for it initially. And then once it becomes bona fide, then that becomes valid, the determination, I guess, once that's made.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Are
Can
there
I
any?
ask something?
Oh,
Oh, yes.
Um, I'm sorry. My name is Connie Trejo, and from El Hogar del Inmigrante, the immigrant home. We are located in Forsyth County, Winston-Salem, and we work with different lawyers because we receive a victim of crime, domestic violence, trafficking, and also we receive all kind of victims. But my question is, how can we work together, or can we talk about that we can start referring our clients?
yeah, yeah. I think, we're
Because
like I,
yes, because thanks God, we give you the evaluation because most of the client need that evaluation, psychology evaluation. So we provide them the whole package for the lawyer. So we send them the whole package, mean criminal record evaluation. So we have like a 20 years working with victims. And thanks God, we help to get the U visa about 1,000 clients. Thanks God. Thanks to
wow,
you, lawyers like you.
oh,
So we
great.
work with different lawyers in Charlotte and Raleigh and different county, but we also need more because we have a lot of clients. So I don't know how can we keep in contact or how can
Yeah, yeah. If there's any way we can maybe be connected, if you can
yes,
send your
please.
contact information into the chat, we would be
Yes.
very happy to have a conversation with you all. We're very new. But we have been funded with our legal services, legal representation services have been funded with an IOLTA grant. And we're optimistic that that's going to be continued, for next year. And so the benefit to that is clients that, have very limited income, their legal services are free with our office. So, yeah, if we can connect
Yes,
maybe in the chat, I'll follow up
I
and
really
set up a call.
appreciate because we
Yeah.
have also VAWA for victim for VAWA.
Yes.
I have 10 families waiting because of the lawyers are so busy. So I really need your support for my people, please.
Yeah.
They are in the waiting list.
Yes.
So
That sounds great.
yes, so I don't know if somebody can help me to give me your email or something. al hogar del inmigrante?
Sure. I'll go ahead and say my email right now. Yeah.
Yes, my email is Trejo, but I can send it to this. ¿Cuál es tu nombre? ¿Aló?
Yes. So her name is
Let me text you my email. Yes.
her name is Shannon Russell.
No, your name, honey.
Oh, el mío. Sí, yo me
I think
llamo
she's talking to you.
I'm going to send my email, okay, in the chat.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's wonderful.
It's a great, yes. So yeah, we can work together because I have in a waiting list a lot of families. So I really
Okay.
appreciate if you help us. Definitely, we really need you. We
Okay.
really need
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I will reach out for sure.
Thank you.
También le
Thank
dejo
you
un
very
correo
much.
allí si gustaría
And
platicar.
thank you.
Si yo le quisiera comentar a las personas que están escuchando, la verdad, una visa U, mucha gente no entiende las calificaciones y yo se los voy a decir en nombre de, bueno, yo no voy a meterme en las cosas legales, yo les voy a decir según basado en la experiencia que tenemos. Hay muchas personas que confunden víctimas de crimen. Por ejemplo, si la persona no fue agredida con un arma, ya sea de pistola, navaja o algo, muchos no califican, por eso no les firman, ellos no saben. Muchas veces los abogados, para que el caso sea fuerte, tienen que presentar una evaluación psicológica. Eso el hogar del inmigrante se los provee. Nosotros les proveemos todo para que puedan calificar, siempre y cuando haya sido verdad, haya un reporte de policía. Gracias a Dios, y le doy gracias a Dios que nosotros no le hemos fallado a ninguno de nuestros clientes. Nuestros servicios también son gratuitos. Entonces, ojalá puedan ustedes saber quién califica y quién no y cómo hacerlo. Hay que saber hacerlo. Si cualquiera que tenga un hijo mayor de 21 años, ustedes se pueden arreglar por VAWA. Hay maneras de arreglarse, pero hay que saber, ¿sí me explico? Muchos padres no saben que tener un hijo que tiene adicción o un hijo que está sufriendo algo, los padres califican para un VAWA. O sea, hay muchas maneras. La cosa es que muchos no saben. Entonces, nosotros tenemos todos esos servicios y tenemos abogados que referimos. Pero esta abogada me gusta porque ellos no cobran y nosotros buscamos gente que no nos cobre. Ojalá y alguien me pueda escuchar y pueda tomar ventaja. Muchas gracias por dejarme hablar.
Gracias. See, and well, Shannon, I was just stating she was just stating the importance of this process, the U visa process or the VAWA process, and how it is important to have attorneys just like yourself dedicated to this work. Another question that we were having in the chat was, is it true that a lot of attorneys, or from experiences, a lot of attorneys won't take your case just because it's not a strong case, such as a weapon being involved or someone being physically harmed. And a lot of the times, a lot of people get rejected because that wasn't the case. Maybe it was just a breaking and entering or other more cases that have had like a mental toll on one. So such as someone going to therapy and being diagnosed with like post-traumatic stress disorder or something along the lines. Do you have any comments on someone with that type of case? Should they keep trying? If they keep getting denied the help by attorneys just because there wasn't any weapons or anyone physically getting hurt?
So it reminds me of a thing, a saying that people used to say, and they still say about attorneys, and that's you could ask 10 attorneys the same question about your case and them have 9 different answers, right? So in general, I think if you are not getting the answer you want, you should keep trying and keep evaluating with other attorneys. We always suggest in medical world that you should get a second opinion. I think you should get a second opinion if you don't get the advice you want from an attorney. I will say, what we typically see though, if an attorney denies your case and they say for the specific reason that they don't believe you have a valid case, there may be something to that, right? It could be that they're incorrect because, for example, you referenced that, oh, well, I have an emotional harm, and that isn't as, successful as a physical harm. And there is a recent advisement letter that speaks to that exact issue where reviewers who were reviewing applications were incorrectly stating that there had to be a physical injury, and that is not accurate. A mental injury or mental abuse is also an acceptable injury. Now, the difficulty is that you have to, as a petitioner, prove that you actually have suffered it, that it's something that's ongoing. Because remember, it has to be substantial. So a little more than just like, oh, I was really nervous and scared while it happened. There has to be some other determination like PTSD, long-term anxiety, things that you're still being treated for and cared for are usually very probative. And so, and again, going back to making sure that when your application is submitted, you're also providing that substantiating documentation. So the evidence that you submit, like your police reports, affidavits, protective orders, photographs, medical records, affidavits from medical providers, things like that can substantiate where there isn't a physical injury, but there's an emotional injury. Okay. And so, like, for example, the case I talked about where the mother did not see her child murdered, right? She wasn't shot herself. She wasn't injured at all, but she suffered from an emotional trauma by being in the close proximity of this crime. Okay, it happened in another part of the home, but she basically knew at the time that it was, this had escalated. There was a history of domestic violence. And so this petitioner had a successful application for an emotional basis of an injury. So, okay. Yes, that should help you a little bit. But yeah, I mean, and here's the other thing. We give free consultations. So what's it worth to you? You could drive down here and we could say the exact same thing, that no, it doesn't work, or, doesn't meet one of the categories of crimes. Or, you could get some really good legal advice because you're able to explain what you need. And that's one thing, with being a grant funded program at this point, is having that ability to, a lot of times I think attorneys feel like they're wasting your money, right? If in the intake screening, it looks like you might have a questionable case. And so they don't want you to waste $150 or $300 and, to do a consultation. And with us, it's free. So we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions, cualquier preguntas, feel free to speak out, type it in the chat box, and we're here to answer them. And if not, meanwhile, Miss Shannon, would you mind telling us how the consultations would go? What do you expect from us? Say if I were to make an appointment for the 17th. Anything I should bring, or what could we do to make the meeting as productive as possible?
Sure. If you have any of the police reports, if you have, typically, if you're a victim witness, so where charges have been formally filed and, you're listed as the victim witness, you're going to have a victim coordinator, from the DA's office that's going to be working with you that can help you get the case file. And so if you could have that where it lists you as the victim witness, because that helps us kind of track these down, because typically on that, you're going to have the charging officer, which is going to be a good, indicator of who the law enforcement agency required to do the certification is going to be. If you can bring, any kind of, you don't have to bring your actual medical records for like, hey, I've been treated here, I went to the ER, or, because of my PTSD and anxiety, I've been going and seeing a therapist. This is their name. It would be helpful. And then your story and your willingness to speak to a stranger, which can inherently be, overwhelming, and to talk about something that being a victim of a crime is very traumatic, right? And so, just kind of come with a headspace and try to calm yourself so you can speak as linearly as possible, because that helps us. And those things would be great. And if we don't, in the 30-minute consultation, if we don't get enough details, or you need to go back and try to get some more information for us to really assess your claim, then we can always schedule another consultation at our office. That would be more than willing to do that.
So, thank you. And would you mind explaining us a little bit about your sliding scale fee? If
Sure.
you were to
Yeah,
go.
that's just our Yeah, so most of our, U visa and immigration cases are going to have free legal representation services. And the rest of our cases that we do, like family law, wills, estates, bankruptcies, are on a sliding scale basis. And so what that means is we take your household income and your household size, so how many people live in your house, and we have a fee structure. And so depending on what tier you are, you get a discount. And so you take our usual attorney's fees, which are anywhere from $250 to $350 an hour. And then we scale it down based off of a discount, up to 60%. And so, and those are for regular like custody. We used to have a domestic violence program, but unfortunately, the crime commission didn't have enough money to fund it again. But we're hopeful that we've got a new legal fellow who's going to be starting in April, and that position was funded for 2 years, and they will be responsible for basically people who would qualify under tier 1, which is our highest discount. So our individuals that have the most need, all the way to tier 3. Those individuals would be able to have legal services by our fellow attorney. And so they would be a licensed attorney that's practicing law and would be able to handle their family law case, so custody or divorce.
Wow,
that's our fee.
thank you so much. And for anybody, if you know any family members or if you yourself want a free consultation, they will be on a Tuesday on, they will be on a Tuesday on October the 17th from 12 to 5 p.m. And feel free to reach out with on by emailing us or by calling our offices at 252-375-7557, and we'll be able to get you scheduled in. And it doesn't hurt.
Awesome.
We're trying, so we encourage everyone and all to spread the word and sign up.
Yeah. And just one thing to clarify, they're free at your office, and we're doing it at your office because hopefully it will eliminate a transportation barrier. And also going to your office, they're able to maybe have some other services and meet with your staff. But they can always do a free consultation here in Washington as well for these types of services. So for immigration. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure they knew that.
Oh yes. So yeah, like she said, if this date doesn't work out, you can always schedule an individual session for whatever time works best for any of you all.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Attorney Shannon. We'll leave the room open for the next 5 minutes or so. If any
Okay,
committee
great.
questions, or if anybody wants to sign up right now, I can take your information as well.
Okay, thank you, Miss Shannon. Thank you very much. Hopefully
Thank
we can
you.
keep in touch. This is Connie. I have to say goodbye. Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Hopefully I
great.
can. Please,
Yes, I'll get your email right now.
please. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you, to hear
Thank
you.
you so much. You
Ya.
too.
Hasta luego. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Gracias.
De nada.
Well, yeah, I guess everybody's leaving. Well, thank you very much.
All right.
Hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you. I'll see you later. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Take care. Thank you everybody for joining.
Bye.
Y'all's day.